Hey, what's going on, guys? Nick from Practically Tactical here, and I'm here along with
Greg for Practically Tactical.
That's right. So, we have the opportunity here with Greg kind of to talk about this since he's been involved in EMS for about a year and a half or so. So, what it's like to be an EMS person.
Provider.
That's such a nice name.
It is a nice word. It makes me sound like I know what I'm talking about.
But what we want to do is, and I'm sure you might get these questions a lot, not necessarily on my channel, but I know I've seen it on others that kind of do more of the medical stuff, what it's like to be an EMT, an EMS, paramedic and stuff. So what that might be kind of cool here is have Greg tell us a little bit about it, what it's like, the glamorous lifestyle of an ambulance and the fantastic and high-quality individuals he encounters in San Antonio. The very great citizens of Bexar County. So Greg, a year and a half or so. So what's it been like?
It's been an experience.
Yeah,
it's been an experience. I knew I want to do it just from the Army. For anybody that doesn't know, the channel, I was in the Army before this.
Hi. What? What? Sure, go for it. Oh. I'm not even going to cut. I'm just going to keep going. Because we've been interrupted like 8 million times trying to make this video. You guys filming?
Yes. Hey. It was like a loud whisper. Hey, are you filming?
No. Okay, so year and a half EMS.
Year and a half EMS. It's been an experience. Like I was saying, I did time in the infantry, so I knew I liked critical thinking and variables, and no day was going to be the same. So I knew kind of like that's what I wanted to do. But what's it like? There's a lot of different aspects to EMS. When most people think about it, they'll think of the 911 system, so that's kind of just what I'm going to focus on, the 911 system. So when someone calls 911, because that's what everybody always, imagines. So
yeah. I'm out of chicken nuggets. What do? You dial 911.
Dial 911. Have a bad dream? Dial 911. Get bit by a cat? Dial 911.
He's not even making this up.
I can't make it up.
You can't.
I wish I could make this up. But no, I mean, it's been interesting. You do a lot of stuff that no other people will get to do, really. It's not too hard to get into. I think I actually refer a lot of people to it if you really don't know what you really want to do, but you want to do something fun, and it's not hard to get into. It's got a steep learning curve, but it's fun to get into. Mm-hmm. And if you have the qualities where you can think on the fly, and you like that type of workplace, then you can do very well. And then if you can kind of have a stomach too, that's not like all of it. It's not all blood and guts, but you can stomach kind of a lot of stuff. Just pee and poop and vomit, and then you do have blood and guts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
babies
too. If you can stomach that, you can stomach just about any of it.
So let's talk about, for someone that's interested or thinks that might be a career path for them. What are the edge? Can you just show up and, hey, can I be on an ambulance? And they're like, you sir are hired.
As long as you have a pulse.
Yeah.
If you have a pulse and a cert. No. So a lot of times there's a lot of different avenues to getting into it. You're going to have to look and see exactly what each state is allowed to certify, depending on whatever they want. Mm-hmm. Kind of the most general, the general certifications that you'll start off is, I like to
differentiate.
Yes. I like to try and explain that to people, because everybody says, paramedic, EMT, or what's the difference, or, is it the same thing? And they are different. They're a lot different. EMT, emergency medical technician, normally the first level of certification that you're going to see is emergency medical technician in basic, who just basically specializes in what it is, basic life support. That's your splinting and assisting respirations and assisting people. It's like kind of like technician. You kind of assist. Mm-hmm. Still really good stuff. If you ever do get in this field, you always hear BLS before ALS, and we'll talk about ALS later too. But I mean, you learn the meat and potatoes of EMS work and healthcare work in general is right there in the BLS stuff, CPR and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So that's normally like your basic EMT basic. Where some of this starts to make difference between states is some are moving towards AEMT, some are still EMTI. The state of Texas, we still have EMTI at this point, so it's Emergency Medical Technician Intermediate. So that's the same thing as your basic, only here we're talking, more advanced airways. So, basic might have just kind of a blind insertion airway, whereas now, an intermediate can do actual endotracheal intubation where, you're visualizing vocal cords and you're putting a tube into their trachea. You're talking IVs and then limited amounts of drugs, like your epinephrine and Benadryl. And, some places will allow nitro. It all depends on your service, what the doctor will allow you to do in your scope.
Okay.
Stuff like that. So it's just a median between basic and paramedic. So, and that would be like basically your intermediate life support too. So you're talking about IVs and fluids and stuff like that. So just a little bit more advanced.
Okay.
And then your last is still technically an EMT, but it'd be emergency medical technician paramedic. So paramedic is going to be the highest pre-hospital certification kind of that you can get. And that's going to be, your full BLS, your IVs, but then you're talking way more advanced drugs. We're going to have different cardiac drugs and, dysrhythmia drugs and pain medication and sedation. You're going to talk about cardiology, so you'll know your cardiac rhythms, all the different rhythms, all the different treatments for rhythms. I can tell you from going through it right now, I'm about to finish up my paramedic, if anybody doesn't know, it's a whole different ball field because it's a lot more information, a lot more in-depth information. But it's really fun. I mean, that's where it is because that's, whenever somebody calls 911, that's, the fire department might show up, the police a lot of times will show up. But when the ambulance comes on scene and it's a medical call, everybody looks to the paramedic.
Yeah.
He's the one in charge. That's his scene then. So
you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to know what you're doing. I won't get into it if you don't, but, so anyways, that's basically the differences between all the certifications.
Okay.
So now people know, if anybody a paramedic, there is a difference between a paramedic and an EMT. So if you call an EMT a paramedic, you're wrong because he's not a paramedic. You can call a paramedic an EMT, though. So if you just say EMT, you really can't go wrong.
Okay, yeah. So what about schooling for someone who wants to get into this? What should they do?
So schooling, it works on a tier system. Like I said, it all depends on what your state. I actually went to school in Tennessee, and it only has 2 levels, EMT, IV, and paramedic. But most states some states you only have basic and paramedic. Like I said, it's all independent state. If we go up, I'll just use the state of Texas. So you have to start with your basic. You have to have your basic certification before you can go anywhere else. You can't just go, oh, I just want to be a paramedic, I'm going to go to school. It doesn't work like that. You have to have that prior certification or else it's kind of like a prerequisite. Basically, It's a prerequisite to paramedic. So that's where you're going to start. It all depends on where you go. Most community colleges actually have an EMT basic program. And that can honestly, I think most of them last about a year. It's not really even full. I think when I went, I did 10 hours, 10 hours a week. So it wasn't much. I went to school, twice a week. It was really simple. It's not exactly easy because if anybody's familiar with medicine, emergency medicine is the most broad spectrum. So you're taking, it's not like, a cardiologist and, a surgeon.
It's nothing specialized.
Yeah, it's nothing specialized, but you're generalized. So it's a lot of information. It's going to be crammed in quite a bit. So you got to know or at least enough to get you buying everything. So, but you're going to learn a lot. To me, it's easy now because I've been in it, but I remember when I first went through, it wasn't anything like, you could brush it off.
Yeah.
But that's where you're going to start, is you're going to start with at least with your basic. From your basic, that's kind of where you have a little more wiggle room to what you want to do. You can go to paramedic from EMT basic. Like I said, I went to Tennessee, so I started intermediate, kind of had one step up. but at least most people will get their basic and then they'll go to paramedic. And then paramedic is you're looking at. I mean, all depending on once again what you go through. You can go through a peer EMS academy and you can knock it out in a year. Most community colleges, I believe, do it in a year and a half to 2 years or 4 semesters. I've seen a lot that are a year long, and then you go to school through the summer. And another thing I also forgot to touch on, even with the basic and paramedic, once you've completed like a lot of your classroom portion, you still have actual clinical hours that you have to do. So just because you have the book smarts doesn't mean that you're done. You have to accomplish the hours.
Yeah.
So like my EMT was like 300 hours, so it wasn't too much, and that's an ER and on an ambulance. So you're actually writing out as a student performing skills on people in front of a preceptor that's making sure basically you don't kill anybody or mess it up.
Would not be a good thing.
So, and then paramedics obviously way more hours. I think right now I'm looking at 500 or 600 hours just for school. So, but that's kind of like how you would get into it. It's really not that hard to get into. Some places will require like a psychiatric exam, stuff like that.
Okay.
Just to make sure you're suited for it. So, that's not even hard. It's funny. It's not hard. Like, remember one of my questions was, when you defecate, do you look at your feces? And you're like, oh, that's some crazy person. Never. Never. And they're like, well,
I don't look at it, I just take pictures of it and send it to my friends.
But so it's stuff like that where it's, we're like, yeah, well, of course, But I remember I've talked to a lot of people after, and they're like, oh, put no, because people are going to think you're crazy. And it came back and it was like, well, how would you know if you had a GI bleed or something like that? You don't ever look, so technically that one was wrong. And everyone was like, damn it, I should have been more crazy.
Yeah. You need to get crazy, but not
too crazy. You gotta be a little crazy to do it, but not too crazy. But so some places will have things like that. Background check. You gotta do background check. You gotta go and do your fingerprints and everything. Like if you were gonna do concealed carry, all your fingerprints, stuff like that. Guess where you go to do all that? Somewhere that normally offers concealed carry classes. That's where I went. I was doing my fingerprints with everybody, getting their licenses and stuff like that. So you're gonna have to submit all that in a generalized background check, vaccinations, But normally you'll do all this once you've been accepted in.
Yeah.
And then sometime you'll have to go to an info session to make sure that's really what you want to do.
Yeah. Well, that's a great segue. So I'm sure a lot of people would say, well, I think I'm interested, but how will I know if I like it, or how will I know that I'm suited for it?
That's a hard one to answer.
I mean, you're basically going to have to go out on the ambulance.
You're going to have to go out, and you're going to have to see the best, and you're going to have to see the worst to figure out. It stuck with me immediately. I knew I loved it. But that was just me. I know a lot of people, it took them a while to learn that it wasn't for them, and then it took a lot of people a while to learn it was for them. Mm-hmm. It's all person to person. It's all what type, what person just called 911. What's their problem?
Yeah. So and like you said, it's different every day. So you've delivered babies, you've had gunshot wounds, you've had people call because they had a bad dream. You've had people that wear garbage bags as clothes, or only on private parts. You've had...
You gotta pull them off.
Yeah, that's where I would probably say, you know what? This job's not for me. But, it has to be at least somewhat entertaining some of the times.
Yeah, probably my favorite part of the whole learning experience, because when you come in green. You think, oh, here's the book, when it's streets. I'm not saying it's like being a cop, but you'll learn like the street smarts aspect of it. Like in school, they don't teach you, this dude's riding the pony, or whatever, slang names and stuff like that, and you're like, what are you talking about? Like,
well,
you don't know
it's kind of like
stuff like that.
Like what you were talking about with my wife, who those don't know, she's the thing above an RN. Talking about those people that call and say, I can only have that one drug, or
exactly.
I'm allergic to all these other drugs except one kind. Or, those that just want to get drugs or get high or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's learning that type of stuff, right?
Yeah, it's picking up your street smarts. Street smarts is so much of it.
Yeah.
I would say it's half of it, because I remember when I first got there, people are like, okay, you remember everything you read in the books? And I'm like, well, yeah. And they're like, throw 90% of it out. And you're like, ah. So you come in so green. Man, you come in so green. And it's, like I said, that's when you got to have critical thinking and you pick it up. I mean, you'll know then.
Yeah.
Trust me, you'll learn by then. But, I mean, you're going to deal with the full spectrum of things. Because most people always talk to me, oh, man, I bet you see bad car wrecks and stuff like that, when it's more than just car wrecks, you know. You see stuff from psychiatric, people having, you know, a psychiatric breakdown, you know, whatever, just or psychiatric in general. I mean, you do see car wrecks and shootings and all the stuff that people always immediately think of.
Yeah.
But you're going to see medical emergencies too. You're going to see people that just collapse, or people that faint, or people that just don't feel well. And that's most of it. Your medical emergencies are a huge portion of that too. So, and you're going to see it all. And you're going to see a lot of stuff. You know, street brawl, and the cops are there, and everybody's beat up. So now you got to go and check out like 30 people that were in a street brawl, you know, and stuff like that. So you see it all. You see a lot, you know, and you see stuff that you like, you see stuff that you don't like, you know, like nobody likes kids. You see kids all the time, you know, good or bad.
Yeah.
You see it all.
Yeah.
So you learn what kind of society you live in. I can tell you that much.
And be friends with the cops.
Be friends with the cops.
That's always number one rule.
The cops be friends with us, but we're friends with the cops.
Yeah.
Too. And your fire department. You got to be nice with your fire department too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you know, if somebody's watching this whole thing, which God bless them if they do, you know, what's one thing that you'd want to pass off to somebody that's thinking about getting in this field, or curious about it, or is, you know, maybe again getting out of the Army, getting out of the Marines, you know, what am I going to do? You know, and that's maybe something they thought about before. You know, what would you say to them or leave with them to look into or think about?
I always refer people to at least trying it, because it's, like I said, it doesn't take a lot to get into. You know, I got out of the infantry.
Yeah.
So where's my job, and you know, where's my actual applicable civilian job market?
Yeah. I don't think the government's hiring for people to shoot other people.
I don't think
yet.
License to Kill actually exists.
Yeah.
I don't believe it does.
Only in England with the MI5 or whatever that is.
But yeah, so I completely lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, but you know, I got out and I was like, well, what am I going to do? I'm either going to do security or I'm going to become a cop. You know, especially if you get out of the military, you have your GI Bill, so just explore what's out there. But I loved it. You know, I liked it. I would say give it a shot.
Yeah.
Give it a try. If you think it's something that you might be interested in, or you are interested in, or maybe you never thought of it, but you're just stuck behind a desk or something, you're like, man, I would like to have that kind of excitement.
Yeah.
You know, do it. Try it. Shoot for it. I mean, you know, even if by the end of the school, maybe you come out with your cert and you get your state license and, you know, all that stuff, and you're like, and maybe you did your ambulance rides and you learn, wow, I really like this, or, you know, I didn't really like this, because you do your ambulance rides pretty quick into your basic, normally by your 3rd or 4th month, so you'll learn quick. I would say you at least give it a shot.
Okay.
Sure. Just give it a shot.
All right.
See if it's for you.
All right. Well, there it is, guys. Hope you guys had fun with this little chat here we had about being an EMS provider. So if you guys got any questions, please put them down below. I'll see if we can talk Greg into checking out the comments, or I'll get something passed along. If you guys got any questions for me, throw it down below. Make sure to answer that as well. So I appreciate you guys watching. Take care.
You know what's actually fucked up is I fart in the truck all the time, and I try and count to see how long it takes every time. One of these days I'm going to record it and put it up on Facebook or something, just to like, because it's always terrible, and I just count the seconds till it hits them. That's what I do when bored. It's fucked up.
That's what it's like to be on an ambulance.
Yeah.